And the focus would be on doing that really, really well in the first generation. And in the early church, Paul, like he was meant to be a preacher and go different places. And he would stop and do that and circle back and go back to the Corinthians and be like, man, we really need to get this first generation right. I think he understood, he had the biblical wisdom, the divine wisdom of how important the trajectory was. And, as opposed to, I think in humanity, this is why Paul, I think, was inspired by the Spirit and not just his own human desires. We would look at like, where are the results this year? Where are the results next year and the next year? So we're looking at the data points on the graph, and we're less interested in like the slope or the trajectory. So that'd be my encouragement to you, as it seems like you're really passionate about that, really focusing on that first generation and getting that right, as opposed to that second, third generation growth, because it's more about the trajectory. And that's the cool thing about Christianity is it's like, well, what's our plan? So it's just like, well, how about you just pray and listen to the Holy Spirit and let's just do what it says.
This episode is brought to you by 10X Nerds. If you're a business owner doing real revenue, there's a good chance you're overpaying in areas you haven't even looked at. Things like credit card processing, insurance, telecom, and more. 10X Nerds comes in, audits your expenses across 30 plus categories, and finds immediate savings. And here's the kicker. They only get paid if they save you money. It's a complete no-brainer. If you want to keep more of what you make, go check them out at 10xnerds.com. This episode is brought to you by Rakowski Law Firm. If you're a business owner or have built a level of wealth, but you don't have your estate plan dialed in, you're exposed. Rakowski Law Firm helps families and business owners protect their assets, avoid probate, and make sure everything transfers exactly how it should. This isn't just paperwork. It's a real strategy to protect your legacy. If you haven't looked at your plan in a while or don't have one, go to rakowskilawfirm.com. Welcome back, everybody, to the Big Hitters Podcast. I'm joined by Jason Parris. Jason is a serial guy. He's got Parris Painting. He's got Olive Ventures. He's also a runner. He's making a movement like he's eating something.
Cereal, because you said I was a cereal guy.
You are. And yeah, he's got a lot of stuff going on. He also has a pilot's license. He's a dad. He is just got a lot of things going on. I'm excited to pick his brain. And his companies are doing big numbers. So I'm excited to hear more about that. Jason, man, tell us how you got started and tell us about all the different things that you got going on.
Great question. How I got started. I was born in 1987. I was in Maple Grove, Minnesota, and that's actually where I live today. So who would have thought? Small world. It's actually pretty common in Minnesota. Minnesota has the highest percentage of people who are born and die in the same state of the union. If you didn't know that. And I was in college. I started out wanting to be a nurse. There's a lot of nurses in my family, and I was going to be a biology and chemistry double major planned. And then I quickly realized I didn't like touching people or helping people. You can laugh when I say that. You don't know me that well. It's okay. And then I switched to economics, and I got involved with a program called College Pro Painters. And they had you run a little student painting franchise business. And I just loved it. I loved everything about it. After I graduated, I said, thank God I'd never have to paint again. Went to Fortune 500 land, did that for about 13 months, had the classic conversation with my wife. Should I take the risks, take the jump, get entrepreneurial again, or slog out the next 40 years of Fortune 500 land? She was very supportive. Started Parris Painting with just a paintbrush and a dream. Right place, right time. Got involved with the right group of people. Was able to convince a bunch of my college friends to come work with me. We eventually grew Parris Painting into a large company. Together, there are myself and 4 other partners, so 5 of us total, that started a holdings company called Olive Holdings. Olive Holdings is the managing partner of Parris Painting today. Parris Painting is a $20 million house painting company in the Twin Cities, so lots of logistics involved in that. These aren't the big, beautiful commercial industrial jobs I wish we did. We do lots of nitty-gritty residential ones, but we're really good at logistics. We then started making investments in other painting companies across the nation. So we have about 25, I believe now, partners in that, where we own anywhere from 40 to 60% equity. We now have a $100 million portfolio in Olive. We took our excess cash flow, started buying land in mostly southern Minnesota, developing it and then doing apartment builds. That's where I'm going a little later today. We've got one of our crew leads is his final day. So we're going to do a little barbecue for him. That's where I came from. And that's what we got going on in the business sense. Then you did a good introduction on the personal side.
Did you
there's lots of things we can talk about.
Jason, did you partner with PE at some point?
I am the PE. I am the E and I am a P. I mean, P. So I don't know, when you say PE, that's private equity. I would say we're a little different than that. Private equity typically has a 3-year to 7-year time horizon where they have to do a turn. I'm personally, as I am the E, I am the equity, I'm more interested in doing a hold. So I don't have any desire to sell unless somebody makes me a stupid offer, because I value the cash flows so well. And I especially value the cash flows knowing that we have a really locked in management team. So the challenge is, let's say we have a $100 million portfolio and PE came and said, we'd like to buy your portfolio. I'm like, well, here's the cash flow I get today. Here's the price you're going to give me. I'm going to pay taxes on that. And what do I want to do with that excess cash? I probably want to lock up future streams of income, which I already have.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be in excess of what I think I could get in the market. So that's always the challenge for me, going down that PE route. I'm more of a buy and hold personality myself.
This episode is brought to you by my friend Silas Lagoy over at ForgeMark Wealth. If you're a high-income business owner or professional and feel like you're getting crushed by taxes, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not stuck. ForgeMark Wealth specializes in advanced legal tax strategies and wealth planning designed to help you keep more of what you make, grow it efficiently, and actually build long-term freedom, not just income. If you're making serious money but don't have a real strategy behind it yet, I highly recommend connecting with Silas and his team. What's up, everybody? This episode is sponsored by ExitWise. If you're a business owner thinking about selling your company, whether that's now or years down the road, you need to know what your business is actually worth and how to maximize that exit. That's exactly what ExitWise does. They help you prepare, position, and ultimately sell your business by assembling a world-class team of M&A experts around you, guiding you from valuation all the way through closing. If you want to know what your business is really worth and how to increase that number before you sell, go check out exitwise.com and get ahead of it. What takes up most of your brain space? I always ask the serial guys this, like, what on a daily basis, how do you, number one, keep it segmented so you don't go crazy? 2, like, what takes up most of your brain space every day?
So there's not a whole lot of segmentation I need to do. I'm very, very blessed. I have phenomenal business partners, and we have, the whole org chart from the top down handled. So there's a lot of worrying that happens that I choose not to stack worrying on top of worrying. So there's a lot of things I don't worry about because I'm paying people to worry, and I know that they're worried about it.
Yeah.
So I'm on the board. So I sit on the board of All Holdings. So I like to think about strategic decisions. And that's usually once a quarter where you're actually making something that's going to have a big impact. So there's not too much segmentation that goes into my day to day. There's nothing I'm involved in day to day. I am starting to lean in now within the last month, just with the craziness of agentics. And so most of my personal bandwidth has just been taken up with agentic harnessing, building out agentic workflows, trying to craft learning. How do you integrate this learning? What are the different types of adoption that we're going to see? How do you make a GUI UI interface for those who aren't going to be super technical within the company? Those are the things that take up most of my personal bandwidth when I think about the business, but that's new in the last month.
Where are you leaning in? Like what platforms are you building those out on?
So we started in 2018. We built our own, what you call an ERP. So we made the decision to go from this hodgepodge of softwares, which I was really good personally at connecting everything, but I was the funnel in that, all the way to building these complex macros in Google Sheets, and actually broke to Google Sheets, where anytime we would move something around, it would load for like 30 seconds, which is impractical when you're running a house painting company. So at that point, we pivoted. We made our own ERP. We have a friend of ours from college who's a very talented software architect. And I always kind of couch that just how to explain him. Like he got recruited to be the director of the Amazon office in the Twin Cities and declined it because he wants to run his own shop. So he's very talented. We're very, very fortunate, very lucky to have him, especially to have him as a friend where we can get him to take on these projects he might not always take on. So we built our own ERP from the ground up. It's not a white box label. It's not on top of anything. We started out with C# language from the ground out. We have our own ERP. He's like going in and fine tuning it, getting ready for the agents that will eventually be embedded within the software itself. I am more interested in the medium term. I'm not in his level. So I'm building the mesh around it that makes our current capacity or the current ability of agents and agentic flows able to interact with that today. So that's use case number one. Use case number two is getting individuals within our organization able to lever this tool that we have right now. So that's sitting down with people in the accounting department, sitting down with people in the marketing department, and saying, what are your workflows? Let me teach you some of the fundamentals and find out pretty quickly if you're someone that's going to fish, or do I have to fish for you? And you're going to tell me which workflows are, and I'm going to build it out. And then we kind of are doing like a little side quest. We bought we full bought a stone and landscape company in the Twin Cities, and for that one, I'm just leaning in and saying, how can I help with this new capacity and new leverage we have with agents, and just building out like an estimator for it, a new dashboard for it, redoing their website for it, just those one-off projects that can have a really quick lever where now you can have wins in days, not weeks, and you can do it in-house instead of with a developer.
This episode is brought to you by Blue Collar Business Advisors. If you're running an HVAC, plumbing, electrical, or landscaping, or any other type of home service business and wondering where all the money is going despite growing your revenue, you need to talk to Paul Maskill. Paul has scaled and sold multiple blue-collar businesses and now helps business owners improve cash flow, profitability, and financial clarity through outsourced CFO services. His clients gain a better understanding of their numbers, build predictable profits, and create a business that supports the life they actually want. One of the things I appreciate most about Paul is he's not just a finance guy. He's been in the trenches as an owner. He understands the challenges of running blue-collar businesses because he's done it himself. If you're doing a few $1 million a year in revenue and want to stop guessing at your numbers and start building real wealth, head over to bluecollaradvisors.com. That's thebluecollaradvisors.com and schedule a discovery call with Paul and his team. Blue Collar Business Advisors, helping blue-collar business owners build financially healthy companies and achieve permanent profitability. I haven't seen a lot of people scale painting companies and become their own PE firm. I feel like painting is one of those trades where the margins can be really tough. There's a lot of competition. Was that what kind of launched you into this, was scaling that company effectively, which gave you the cash in the coffers to then start buying more of them?
100%. Yeah. And I think you're right. You've seen it mostly in the licensed trades. So in electrical, plumbing, HVAC, even in roofing, you've seen that model play out a lot more. There are pros and cons to every different market. The pros in our market is that, we're kind of on the bleeding edge of something that wouldn't be bleeding edge in a different industry.
Right.
I think the margins are healthy. It's also historically been less competitive. So you look at the margins in something like roofing, HVAC, and plumbing, those are great margins, but they're also having a lot of spend in their cost on margin, what they spend to acquire a dollar of margin, specifically in the marketing. So we spend a lot of marketing in those industries compared to maybe what we've historically spent in painting, although it is starting to go up. But you're exactly right. Parris Painting became the test kitchen of our success. And then it was me and my 4 other partners sitting around and saying, like, what do we want to do? We could certainly continue to grow Parris Painting just for ourselves, and that's really fun. But just some of the things that sometimes business works best when it's what you're passionate about, which you actually care about. And as we sat around the room, not everyone was really passionate about that. And so how do we start to democratize the equity in painting? We all came from a franchise background with college pro painters, loved that experience, but just fundamentally disagree with that model. Franchising has a lot of it just inherently has misaligned incentives. And we were really passionate about bringing partnership to the trades industries and starting to democratize that equity, helping business owners scale their business with a mutual desire to turn it into an asset. And I'll just tell you right now, not everybody wants that, because there is this trade-off between control and stability or freedom. And a lot of people inherently, they actually want control, and that is okay. That is okay. It's just not what I want as an investor.
Yeah. What do you mean democratize the equity? You keep saying that. I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Yeah. So typically there isn't much equity in a painting company, obviously, because it's a job. So now that being said, there's a sucker born every minute. And I've seen a lot of people buy painting franchises. And I would say that's a sucker spot, a buy as well. But in general, they're not worked very much, because if you are an investor, if you're an actual PE firm, you're looking at securing future cash flows. And if you have to step in and be the operator, it's dependent on somebody running the show that is a unique and compelling individual. As you scale these companies and grow them, now you have the inherent layers of management that allow you to be more of an owner and less of an operator. And now you've actually created real equity. So instead of trying to come in and buy the equity away from an owner, isn't quite there or is on the verge of being there? How can we come in and, so I just to kind of bring this back, there's kind of two forks that typically would happen. Either you do a full sale or you would just continue on in your job. It's very, very rare that you have the ability to turn your business into an asset that you now have equity in. And what I mean by that is it's not your efforts that deliver you a return, it's your equity or your capital that delivers you a return. That's not something that's common in painting. It's something we're really, really good at, which is scaling companies in the painting space to become assets. And that's what I mean by democratize equity in the painting industry.
Gotcha. Okay. The franchise model, why don't you like it?
Because it inherently has misaligned incentives. And you see these in results if you go through the FSDDs. There's a lot of churn. They're usually smaller units. I will give them credit that they put in the biggest mover of professionalization in the industry. So I come in pretty spicy, come in pretty hard, and then I back off a little bit. But inherently, they're small business units. They don't have much profit. The drive from the franchisor is, I want you to grow revenue because I get a percentage of that revenue. And then the franchisee comes back to say, hey, I grew revenue 30%, but I lost money. Like, oh, that's so bad for you. Our percentage is set. We're going to be fine. And then eventually that franchise owner is like, hey, I can't keep doing this. I'm getting burnt out. And like, oh, that's so bad for you. We're just going to resell your territory for another 30 grand. So it just kind of eventually leans into that. It doesn't always happen, but it happens way more often than it doesn't because that's how it's architected and it's how it's designed, as opposed to a partnership model where you're yoked into the profits. And you would say, I really want this company to grow, but I want it to grow in a way that's profitable and I want it to be stable for the long term. Because as an investor, what I care about are the cash flows of profit and the likelihood of future cash flow streams. So it's more of an aligned incentive model. It's a harder model because you have to do a lot more work. You're not de-risked or de-hedged as much as you are in franchising. I would love franchising if I were a make me some money guy, but that's just not something that I get the team really excited about because we haven't sold our souls. Man, I come in spicy against them, don't I? A little bit.
Well,
but I'll just tell you, most of the painting industry would agree with me. The franchise have a pretty bad rap in pre-painting. Also, I'm going to do another kind of mean thing. Another reason I love the franchisors, they make very grateful employees and very grateful clients for us. Oh, it's so mean. It's not nice. But they have been one of the biggest drivers of professionalization in the industry, and I gotta give them credit for that. It's better that they're around than that they're not. I just think the model can be better.
Yeah. No, I don't mind. I was just curious to hear your thoughts. You're my first painter on the show, and so I don't know that I understand the industry well enough because I know people in other industries that have done really well with franchises. Like I know a guy that has like 20 Dunkin' Donuts and he crushes, and he's very happy about it, So I haven't spoke to a franchise owner in the blue collar space. So it's curious to me,
Yeah, I see. That is interesting because you do see that success model a little more in like restaurants or in shops. But you don't see it be successful in home service industries, maybe particular in the house painting industry. And maybe there's a reason for that. I still also inherently believe that the models have misaligned incentives. So that's something just doesn't mean that you can't do well within it. But it's just if you look through all the FSDDs of the franchisors within the painting space, inherently it just goes a lot worse than it goes good because of those misaligned incentives.
Yeah. What's going really well in your business right now? What are some challenges you guys are facing?
Man, so Parris Painting home base is going really well. And that just seems like the little engine that could. We continue to grow that beyond what we ever thought was possible. And I think we just have a great culture of a team that continues to thrive as you continue to give them resources. So that's something that's going really, really well. I feel like we've really found our niche or what we're good at in our ventures program.
Yeah.
So we started out with the hypothesis of let's buy companies really small and we'll participate in the growth as they grow, right? Because you buy small, you buy low, and then you hold. You don't ever sell, just continue to hold, and then you grow, and that's great. What we found over the last handful of years is that we're not very good as a team at that startup phase. And so there's not a ton of value that all of ventures brings in when a company is really small. We're really good when they've got the foundations in place and now they're ready to really grow and scale. So that's something I'd say that is good, that's been going well, is now we know which companies, they have to be around 2 to 3 million for us to really have an appetite to start to make that type of an acquisition. Things that are challenging right now is I feel like I'm really good at systems design and I'm really good at technology and creativity and entrepreneurship. And it was a little over a month ago, probably 6 weeks ago. I probably entered into that agentic psychosis that a lot of us have been going through as we get a feel for it. And it's been disheartening, or maybe a little saddening, to see how challenging the adoption is for most of our team. And it creates a lot of empathy as well, and challenges my thinking of how can I make this either a GUI interface, how do I really teach the fundamentals, and what is realistic for me to expect for people, who's a builder, who's a doer, and who's I gotta give you the fish type of a person.
Yeah.
And that's been something that's been challenging for me emotionally, because in my mind, it's just like, hey, everybody should just be running 100 miles an hour right now, building out their agentic bot or the agentic workflows, building out managed agents. If you're typing on your computer, you're an animal. You got to talk to your computer. You got to use whisper flow. And the reality is that most of our team is not going to get to that level. So, but I do want us all to be an AI centric first company, where it is going to be the central brain, and you have nodes coming out of it. And it's been just probably like frustrating or challenging, becoming aware of the different adoption levels we're going to have, because different people have different strengths.
What are your thoughts on bridging that gap with it? So here's my, one of the hills that I would die on is that, especially in the blue collar space, I think the gap between the user and the technology is a virtual assistant in the Philippines or somewhere, like Claude Cowork is amazing and I love it, but my virtual assistant is the one mainly implementing it, and I just drop notes in and I'm like, hey, build this out in Cloud Cowork. I'm leaving the meeting. I just met with Jason. He needs a proposal, right? That's at least my vision for the blue collar guys. Like, those guys love technology, but oftentimes they don't necessarily want to take the time or energy to actually implement it. And so that's where I'm like, I think the gap between the user and the technology is a more technical person that supports them. I don't know. That's just kind of where my head's been at over the last year of running this podcast,
Yeah, I think it's a great model. It's a great hypothesis of, how do you feed them up the fish? How do you're making a more GUI interface? Your GUI interface is that Philippine VA type person. I just believe foundationally that there's nothing a VA can do that agentics can't do. And so it's kind of like you want to build multiple tiers of agent. So I'm sure you've seen this all over, Twitter and the social medias where people have their different agentic teams. You'd have like your GUI agent, who is just your like chat bot. And that talks to, the tradesperson. The tradesperson says like, hey, and they might think it's a VA. It's not. It's the GUI interface agent. And that GUI interface agent is more of an orchestrator, and they hand it off to the technical agents and the doing agents underneath them.
What's a big challenge for you guys right now? What's the biggest challenge or barrier you guys are trying to overcome?
Yeah. I think it'd be that one that I kind of just talked through, which is how do we make sure?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's good. Let's talk about some of the non-business stuff. So you got ultra marathons, homeschooling your kids. You're doing a lot of crazy stuff. You got your pilot's license. Which of those things gets you most fired up? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, it's kind of like everything in life. Each has its seasons. So I just finished it's called the Backyard Ultra format. People maybe if they're familiar, they may not be, but it's a 4.167 mile loop that you have to start every hour on the hour. And so you can finish the lap early, and it goes until there's one runner standing. And it's that distance so that every 24 hours you run 100 miles. And you get a buckle after 24 hours on the race I did. And I didn't hit that goal last year. I hit 20 hours. And this year I came back and hit 25 hours. And that just happened this last weekend. So that was like a recent thing that got me really fired up. Awesome. My kids, obviously it's, they're aged 3 to 11. And that's a really fun season of life right now, where for the past 4 years, I've mostly just been retired and be able to hang out and spend a lot of time with them. I still operate from a board level. So I still help make those strategic decisions. I think I'm going to start leaning into the business now more with this agentic change that's happening. But that's just been a really fun season with the kids. And then flying is like, it's like trail running in the mountains for me. And, I live in Minnesota, so there's no mountains here, but we like to visit Alaska quite a bit. I travel around to Utah quite a bit. I love running in the mountains. There's this flow state that comes with it. And I get the same type of feeling when I'm flying in the sky, with just a single, small airplane. So I get kind of different passions or different drives or fires in each of those areas, depending on what season I'm in.
Yeah. I love that. Is there anything we haven't talked about today, Jason, that gets you fired up? You're a pretty passionate guy, so I want to make sure we touched all the bases.
I'm a morning person, so you hit me at the right time. I'm very, very passionate about like truth and like paradigms and reality. So I'm a big BI.
This is a very faith-friendly podcast, so feel free to
Okay, I was
drop
gonna say
some.
I'm a BIBLE. That's the book for me type of a guy.
Yeah.
So I'm very passionate about that. I love challenging people with apologetics in a loving way. To me, it's just so obvious, and it just requires some clarity, but also requires the Holy Spirit to touch them to really make that decision in their life. But that's something I feel like I'm pretty good at, and I'm pretty obviously.
Are you familiar with Cliff Knechtly? Have you seen any of his stuff?
Yeah, yep.
That's my old
The guy that
pastor.
leans down like this, yeah,
That's my
does the
guy.
squats.
That's my guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
your
So
guy. Yeah,
I grew up
love that.
He's
Love it.
amazing. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, and it's just a lot of. I mean, when people are confronted with, lies cannot hide when they're confronted with truth. They have to be confronted, and the shadows and the darkness have a lot of oppressive powers, but they have no power against light. And so, when light enters the room, there is no power to the shadows. And just getting that truth out there and being very direct, kind, but clear on what reality is. That's something I get really passionate about as well.
It's interesting. I'm really plugged in with this group called Rise Up Kings, and so they're kind of like a Christian.
I've heard about them. Yep.
Yeah. So I went through this a year ago. I was stuck in a business I hated. I was miserable. I had my whole suicide planned out, dude. I was in a bad place, and plugged in with these guys. And quite honestly, before I started hanging out with them, I'm not sure I believed in spiritual powers. Like, Paul says, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We wrestle against powers and principalities. And dude, having gone through the event now and all the stuff they do, we have encountered demons. We've cast out demons. I've seen spiritual oppression. And the Bible has taken on a whole new meaning for me. Like when Jesus cast out demons, I'm like, bro, that really happened. I used to be like, I'm not so sure about that. Now I'm like, we wrestle against spiritual forces, and there are spiritual powers at work in our world that are oppressing people, right?
The crazy thing is, like, the most successful people acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, I know that's true, and I really would like to tap into some demonic powers. But they're aware of them. Like, they're aware of the spiritual world, whether it's like, I'd really like to touch into this demonic trend. Man, I really want to be boosted by the power of the Holy Spirit. Like, some of the most successful people, or even companies, have that root of, like, they're into the spiritual, they're into the occult. And awareness is one thing. Even the demons know that Jesus is real. Even the devil knows that God is real. Awareness doesn't mean anything. It's just that now, what path do you want to walk in with that awareness?
Well, I think honestly, a lot of the ways the Spirit, it's so interesting. We went down to Mexico and we did an event down there, and Mexico, there's more like witchcraft. A lot of the kids that we were dealing with, they were in and out of drug, facilities. And at one point they had worked with a cartel. I didn't realize this, but standard procedure to join a cartel is you make a contract with Satan. I didn't know that. And so you immediately open yourself up to spiritual forces. So the amount of demonic stuff we saw was like, bro, we are in the book of Acts. Here, I think the Spirit is like, it's laziness. It's like it's a softness that men have assumed, where we are just silent and we're passive.
The devil's pretty sneaky. He knows where to go. He knows what tack to use. And the witchcraft and the satanic. There's actually, I think Minneapolis has the highest concentration of Wiccans in the nation.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. Yep. But in general, you're right. It's more of like, laziness, like comfortable, like, I have too much bread that I don't rely on God. Think about, give me enough daily bread that, I don't dishonor myself through dishonor, but not too much bread that I don't rely on you, God. I think that's the biggest challenge that most of us face here in America, is that we have too much bread, and it tempts us to no longer rely on God.
Yeah. Dude, I might want to have you back on, to be honest. This is good.
Anytime, man. I love these conversations. I'd be curious to learn more about you too. And so you can feel free to chat. And then I really love talking about the philosophical, whether it's in business or in spiritual or anything in between. Yeah. So if you have any things that are like, hey, this is like a concept that's happening, I love attacking those.
Well, here's the concept I believe in. So we're on it. I believe the next big movement of God is coming in the marketplace, and the blue collar marketplace, not necessarily just in the marketplace in general, but I talk to these business owners that own HVAC, plumbing, electrical, painting, and I'll visit them sometimes in their shops. And I'm like, bro, you do not need an MDiv. You do not need a seminary degree. In fact, I would say that's the last thing you need. What you need is to believe you're a spiritual leader, and you can lead a church right here. You have 25 people or 50 people, however many, working for you. All you got to do is step into what God has called you to do. You can baptize these people. You can lead worship. And that's what I love about Rise Up Kings is they're empowering men. They're helping them get to the root of their daddy issues. I mean, the breakthroughs I've had were better than the ones I've had in counseling. And
Sure.
the thing that's crazy about it is as I've gotten healthier, I sit in Sundays and I'm like, bro, we are straight up stepping up to the plate. We are whiffing the ball on Sundays. Like we are
Sure.
letting men stay stuck. We are letting marriages fall apart. And Jesus, when he encountered someone, he didn't let them stay where they were. He always called them up to another level. There's always another level to your marriage, to your fatherhood. And I believe that the model that we have adopted has come from Christendom. It's come from ancient Greece. There's never been a model where the model that we got where the guy stands on stage and talks for an hour, that comes from Greece, you know, and that's straight up. I think after 2,000 years of doing this, it's time for a reformation, not in our theology. I think our theology is fine, besides the occasional heretics. I think the reformation needs to come in how we meet and how we gather. And
Sure.
And that's where I believe God, like I've seen like, dude, it's cool again to be a Christian in a weird way. Like on TikTok, there's a lot of influencers like Logan Paul's
in the last 9 months.
Yeah. And so I believe the next big movement of God. I'm so glad I made it through like a semester and a half of seminary and I dropped out. And I'm like, bro, this is training me to be on defense. This is not training me to be on offense. And then I meet these warriors like you in the marketplace. I'm like, bro, we are doing more ministry than most guys in the pulpit, in my opinion. You know, a lot of those guys are stuck in
different ways. Yeah.
Yes. And disenchanted with the model. And they got into it. They inherited this model from somewhere. But after 2,000 years of this not working, when are we going to realize the model doesn't work? You know, that's where my crazy comes out, is talking about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't take much to, plant the seed. And that's, so the early church was all about growth and trajectory and less about like results that year. And so that's where it is very encouraging to say, even in moments where it feels discouraging or like, oh, there's been a drift in 2,000 years. And now from what I'm hearing you say, like, people are apathetic and we're going through the motions and like even people are gathering as a group to be taught and entertained but not transformed. I think some of the position you're taking on that, it can be discouraging, but then you're also saying like, hey, there's all these little seeds of business owners that you're engaging with who are already natural leaders. They already have a little cohort around them of people that look to them for insight and inspiration. And how can we start to have those be little seeds that propagate out? And the focus would be on doing that really, really well in the first generation. And in the early church, Paul, like he was meant to be a preacher and go different places. And he would stop and do that and circle back and go back to the Corinthians and be like, man, we really need to get this first generation right. I think he understood, he had the biblical wisdom, the divine wisdom of how important the trajectory was. And, as opposed to, I think in, humanity, this is why Paul, I think, was inspired by the Spirit and not just his own human desires. We would look at like, where are the results this year? Where are the results next year and the next year? So we're looking at the data points on the graph and we're less interested in like the slope or the trajectory. So that'd be my encouragement to you as it seems like you're really passionate about that. Really focusing on that first generation and getting that right, as opposed to that second, third generation growth, because it's more about the trajectory. And that's the cool thing about Christianity is it's, it's like, well, what's our plan? So it's just like, well, how about you just pray and listen to the Holy Spirit and let's just do what it says. Like we can come up with all these plans and we should be wise and we should have all these things. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, how about we just plan and listen to the Holy Spirit? And it's so anti-flesh and so anti what I desire. Which is why it's the only true religion, full stop. It's the one religion where it's like very anti-flesh, very anti-man.
Well, when you said you were in Utah, I was worried for a second. I'm like, are we in the same branch of the family tree? I wasn't sure. So
when I said what?
When you said I thought you said you were in Utah for a second, but now I remember you're in Minnesota. So I was like, are we in the same branch of the family tree? Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Minnesota. Yeah. We got a crazy state for sure. But I'm in the suburbs, so it's kind of nice. No, it's it's an interesting state. We'll see how long we stay here. On paper, we're open to leaving very soon. They passed a law a year or two ago. Like and there's a difference between a law on paper and law that's enforced 100%. But on paper, the state can take away your child if you don't affirm their transition on paper. They haven't enforced it. And there's a big difference between something on paper and enforcing it. If that ever starts to get enforced, we're for sure leaving the state 100%. Like it's no question. We've got a lot of different options we can move to. But yeah, we chose to homeschool very intentionally. And we started doing that, before it was cool, before COVID happened. I personally, I know there's a lot of friends who believe in being a ministry to the to the public schools. And I just fundamentally disagree with that. I think it's a great disservice. And as Christians, we are called to give our kids a Christian education, and that we shouldn't be having them influence in the school systems. And I'm happy to debate people on that. Because there's a lot of people who feel like, hey, we are called to be those lights in those dark places. And I just foundationally disagree. Yeah, I'd say we're on the same family tree, as you would say.
Yeah. We're going to have to keep this conversation going. Jason, if people want to find more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
Oh, that's a great question. I guess on social media would be one way to do it. So if you search Jason Parris, you should be able to find me. And if you can't, maybe we don't need to hang out, and that's okay. Yeah, search for me on social media. My email, I have a lot of different emails and they all go to the same place. But you could do Jason at paris-painting.com. That's a good one. You can also come to Minnesota, Maple Grove, and I'm on Dallas Court North. So come and find me.
I love that. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Don't go anywhere because I want to keep talking, but thank you so much for coming on the show.
Roger that. Appreciate it.